How's it going, guys? It's Cole from See-Through Panel showing off Night of the Ghoul by Scott Snyder and Francavilla, published by Dark Horse and Best Jacket Press. And this trade paperback retailing for $20 US. This is a 3-issue miniseries, but I believe they are oversized issues, around like 32-ish pages. Before we get too deep, I'm not going to be spoiling anything too deeply. Talk about the rough story, kind of the first issue lead-in, but nothing really else involving the plot. And then flip through a lot of the book, show off a lot of the art, maybe even flip to the ending just to show off some of the best art, I think, in the story. So if you're worried about being spoiled, maybe come back after you've read it. We could talk about it then. This is a book I actually read a long time ago, probably 3 years ago, right when it came out, 3-4 years ago, digitally, and waited for the trade for an extremely long time. Not because I have any particular love for Scott Snyder. I think he's an all-right writer. I actually think he's a good writer from what I've read. I just haven't read a ton from him. I just love Francavilla a lot. I got into him originally with his work on The Spirit and Black Beetle, very pulpy characters, so I was interested to see how he'd handle a horror story. And I think he works really well. Very moody art, very classic feeling with a lot of modern kind of intricacies to it. You can tell it's very... the coloring, for instance, is extremely modern and vibrant. Here's an example of the art. What this story basically is a man on false pretenses goes in to find the director of one of his favorite movies that only ever got released in the first half of the movie got released, and it was stopped by a horrible fire that burned the man, left him disfigured, and nearly killed him and ruined the movie. And that movie is about the Ghoul, and it's a World War I movie about this American regiment finding the Ghoul and having to exterminate this monster called the Ghoul. And Scott Snyder posits that this is the origin of the Ghoul as a icon, a horror icon, up there with zombies or vampires and things like that. That's basically what this is, and a lot is revealed about the true nature of the movie and the ties it has to the real world and whether the Ghoul is real or not. If this man is crazy, he has delusions about he's being kept in this place not for his health, but because they're trying to bring about the Ghoul into the real world, or back into the real world if it was real in World War I. How you see it here. Basically, what I enjoy about this book is seeing Francavilla just kind of flex all of his muscles here on kind of the sepia black and whitish of the film reel kind of effect he's got going on there. And then back to this modern day, really cool colors with warm oranges. So it's a lot of blues and grays and then oranges for lights and things like that. I think the coloring is phenomenal. He does it himself. Make sure I get that right. Yeah, art and colors by Francavilla, and we'll design on letters. I never did talk about how... Here's the design of the Ghoul, which you never fully see, super well in detail. Maybe once or twice you do, but that's kind of the downfall of monster movies, right? Is when you overshow the monster and it kind of ruins the horror aspect of the monster. You never want to see it in its full glory, except for maybe that terrifying moment at the very end of the movie. But even then, oftentimes a full reveal of a monster design will just kind of kill the atmosphere of the medium. I guess movie is what I'm thinking, because I'm just more used to horror movies. But yeah, a lot of twists and turns in this. A lot of what is real, what is not real. Is this place a hospital, or is it a cult hideout that's hunting for something supernatural? Are the connections to World War I? Was this movie, Night of the Ghoul, movie in quotes, actually a real historical account? There's a really cool... The X-ray of a person with the Ghoul inside of them. And that cover is just awesome. In terms of story, I actually really do enjoy it. I think it has all of the proper tropes that makes horror good and fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which I don't think horror ever should. It has really nice, fairly easygoing dialogue. This is not a great example because there's a lot of exposition and historical accounts and kind of things in the movie part of the book. But the one thing I will knock on Scott Snyder is sometimes I find his dialogue a little bit cold. In this, it kind of works because it's like a son and a father. The son comes with the father on this trip, but he really has no interest in any of the stuff. It's kind of like there's a distance between him and his son, and that distance kind of gets further and further as he thinks that his dad's going crazy in this area, and then there's either a mending or a worsening of that towards the end at the twist. Here is some crazy panels. This is where we're going to get into visual spoiler territory. Probably won't know what any of it means if you haven't read the book, but just to warn you once again. Overall, I wanted to cover this book because I've been reading a lot of prose lately, and this was something that was really light, easy to read. I had read it before, but not for quite a while. I've been kind of digging on horror lately. I'm working my way through Lock and Key: The Golden Age. Sometime I'll do a full reread of Lock and Key and cover the whole story on the channel, but that's just a big undertaking, so maybe eventually when he comes back for World War Key, we'll do that. Really, though, if you take anything away from this video, it's very scattershot, even more so than my other videos, because I'm really deep in some prose stuff right now, so my mind isn't fully fixated on comics at the moment. But Francavilla is a wonderful artist who I wish did more work. I understand why he doesn't. I'm sure he could make plenty of money and make a living doing covers. But I love when he does interior work. I love his colors. They're very bright, very pastel almost. And his design is just incredible. Some kind of framework around that splash page. I'll be flipping towards the end here to show some of the more action parts. Some more Ghoul action. I really like the design of the Ghoul. It's very, obviously mostly silhouetted because you don't want to see too much of it. And when it is shown, it's never fully, like, hyper-rendered. So you can see every nook and cranny of its facial features and its, like, anatomy, which I think is right. Also leaves a nice epilogue that really means nothing but opens up for a continuation of the story. Either just because, I couldn't decide if it was just because that's what horror does and he wants to lean into the horror, like, classic horror monster movie vibe where there's always going to be more of them, leaving room for more, and it's very classic feeling, or he actually has plans on doing a sequel. I don't know. I know this got picked up for a movie. Who knows if that'll ever actually happen, but if this does, if the movie does happen, I can almost guarantee you that Francavilla and Snyder, or maybe just Snyder and another artist, are going to do a sequel, because that's just kind of how comic book economy works. But overall, would highly recommend. Do I think it's the best horror story I've read recently? No. Do I think the art is gorgeous and just worth looking at on its own? Definitely. It's a style you're not really going to get anywhere else. And I think Francavilla only really gets better. I will say, I can actually reach down and grab it. That is Black Sad. That is not the right book. The Black Beetle, I think, is where Francavilla shines the most for me. I have a soft spot for pulp hero stuff. Like, when I cover Lobster Johnson, you'll hear me talk about that a lot. This is where I got introduced to Francavilla. It is a little earlier in his career. It's a little rougher. The colors are a little different. But it also has even more of a classic feeling. The way the faces are drawn. I did not plan to show this, but I'm just kind of gushing about Francavilla. I just love his art. I think it's awesome. He's always had this crazy colors that he does, and I think he's kept with that. He has improved his art, but in terms of like the atmosphere, it fits so well into pulp. So if you want Francavilla art, check out Black Beetle. If you want a good horror story that happens to have Francavilla art with it, Night of the Ghoul is pretty much your only option. But I really did enjoy reading it. I know I've said multiple times that I enjoyed it, but I'm pointing out better books. But it's just a taste thing, you know? It's just a taste thing. So, very classic monster movie feeling horror book. I'll be back soon, hopefully, with a better release schedule for videos covering Lock and Key: The Golden Age. So, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Peace.